Marty, over to you. So just kind of give the audience, if you would, kind of an overview of Signature's operation.
Sure. I can't beat Andy and Adam because that's pretty impressive, but we've got about 4,000 team members globally, over 200 locations in more than 25 countries. We are at 37 of the top 50 U.S. airports, including 13 in California. And we've got 3 big operations in the Bay Area, which is within the scope of your group. We service more than 2/3 of the world's business jets every single year, and we deliver more GA fuel, jet and 100 low lead, than anybody else in the world.
Marty, let's talk. So out there is the demand is building a little bit from the production side on kind of what it is and how this is manufactured. One of the things that I've heard on several recent webinars, I think the AIN had one not too long or recently that focused on FBOs and talked about how many FBOs out there are waiting on the consumer demand, customers asking for this. Can you talk a little bit about what Signature is hearing or seeing or responding to, and certainly to the extent that the SFO announcement and that program is probably a manifestation of it? Can you just talk a little bit about what you're seeing on the demand side, and specifically probably to the flight departments that are listening to us today, what they can do if they're interested, or if they want to look to kind of increase that demand side market pressure, if you will, or market stance?
Sure. So I think the interest is there. The interest has been there for a long time. Like Chris said, the sustainable fuels is not a new concept by any means, but it's really materializing that into demand. We've seen the industry alphabet groups like NATA, NBAA, Gamma, ICAO, et cetera. They've been calling for SAF. We're now seeing customers across the spectrum from the single aircraft owner operator 91s to large fleet customers, with NetJets leading the charge, expressing this desire to have SAF available. I think now that pricing continues to get more competitive, if you just look at what it was 5+ years ago, we only see that increasing. I think there's still hurdles to overcome, right? From early stigmas and misinformation around SAF. Again, Chris just talked about this, and I think your prior webinar had talked about some of the technical elements, trying to overcome misinformation, comparing SAF to conventional jet. I think those are improving now. I think the fact that all these major manufacturers have endorsed it, and they've now demoed SAF as drop-in alternatives in GA and both in commercial aviation. I think the fact that, in the particular SFO, there's been fuel, if you've flown through SFO in the last couple of years, we've had some small amount of SAF in your aircraft, whether you know it or not, because it's been in the consortium. It's a drop-in commingled alternative, and it was going to the airlines, and we all pulled from the same supply there. I think you also see that costs continue to come down. Anytime you make more of something over time, it should get more competitive. So what you've got materializing is this convergence of decreasing costs and improved consumer education. And then, as Andy talked about, the increasing prioritization of sustainability efforts. That's across all the businesses that use GA now, right? So it's small and large operators, it's fleet operators themselves that are making these commitments to sustainability. And I think those 3 things coming together means it's an exciting time for staff.
Well, Marty, a little bit of a pivot here, because one of the questions that we have had, we host senior leader roundtables periodically and smaller forums with folks that are helping to guide some of the flight departments and some of the operators. When it comes to a flight department that maybe doesn't have the scope and the size and the scale of a fleet like a NetJets does, what can a flight department do? What's their best, I don't want to say pressure point, but their best mechanism for trying to help, once they've made the decision, hey, this is something we're interested in, we want it. Is it just calling around to find out where SAF's available, or what can they do to help increase on the demand side of the equation?
Sure. They're really, and it's a lot of your audience here today, I understand, is really the most important part of the equation, right? It's connecting the sort of upstream demand of these sustainability pledges, where you've got this great opportunity to purchase SAF, and as opposed to asking for forgiveness later, for sinning, like with carbon credits, you've got the opportunity to never sin in the first place over time. So I think, to me, though, for that group, it starts with its education, right? So it's getting informed, it's ensuring crew members, other key stakeholders know what it is. Like Chris said, SAF is jet fuel, right? It meets ASTM specs. It just comes from sustainable feedstocks. That's the only difference. As blended and offered today, it's exactly the same as conventional jet from a specification standpoint, but it actually burns cleaner. It doesn't only have a cleaner upstream footprint, but burns a little bit cleaner. It's been approved by all the major aircraft manufacturers and OEMs, like I talked about. And look, I talk to pilots because I'm an active pilot myself. I totally get the concern a crew has about putting some new type of fuel in. Fuel's sacred, right? Lifeblood of your engine, and it's just one of those things that you just never, ever take a chance on. But SAF is jet fuel. So I think the more we can get that message out, that's sort of the first hurdle. And then I think immediately, obviously, considering the audience and what's available today, the next thing they could do for us is call Signature and ask for SAF on your next visit. And if you've got interest in other markets, we want to hear about it because, of course, we're being pragmatic. We're committed to doing this. It's the right thing. But sort of the order where we roll it out, where we prioritize within California and beyond is, of course, going to be closely tied to where demand comes from customers like NetJets and others. So we need to hear from you. That would be my ask from the Signature side is, and don't hesitate to reach out to me and we can connect dots and get the people that want supply where they need it.
Marty, it is that, the question was, if they're looking, they're dropping into an FBO, tech stop, whatever it is, and SAF is not available there, it is book and claim an option across the Signature enterprise, or not yet, or it's coming? Just a little bit about, what can they do if SAF isn't available at that location? Other than, I really like my SAF, but is there something they can do in the very near term?
Yeah, sure. So right now in Signature's retail SAF offering, we're limited to locations where we've got physical supply. We certainly have ambitions towards making it available everywhere we operate. So that's 200 locations globally, right? So given the geographic distribution of our network, the stuff you've heard Chris talk about in terms of regulatory environment, credits, that sort of thing, a concept like book and claim or book and trade, one and the same, right? It's going to be part of our program. And our partnership with NetJets between San Francisco and Columbus is actually sort of a proof of concept there, right? As Adam and Andy talked about, they're buying beyond their actual consumption in San Francisco to offset their fuel consumed in Columbus. And, just practically speaking, again, trying to do the right thing, trying to reduce the carbon impact of what we do. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to truck sustainable fuel all the way across the country to Columbus, right? Because now we're burning a whole bunch of diesel, and that's not the right thing to do. So I think book and claim is absolutely going to be a part of our very near future.
Marty, how about from the FBO and Signature's perspective?
Yeah, I think it's sort of that do the right thing on a few different levels, right? I personally, for me, I've got 3 daughters. This is actually the part of my work that they're most interested in. The rest of it, they could really take it or leave it, right? But I think this next generation coming up is going to judge us based on, how we performed in our careers and how we contributed. And I think it's so exciting that we've got all these big like-minded organizations like NetJets, Neste, with a stated mission to make the world a better place for our children, right? It feels like general aviation is really on the leading edge of making this sustainable future real, and SAF is a key pillar of that. So exciting to be a part of it, and Signature is excited to be part of making this available and rateable and a permanent fixture here in the next few years.